Hello, Pablo.
Hi, Poonam. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Doing well too. Glad to see you again.
Good to see you too. It's been a year since we
Yeah, it's been a
talked.
while.
So last time we talked was when you were accepted into Ross with full scholarship, and now you are going to almost complete 1 year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's been a very good experience so far. I've enjoyed a lot,
Good.
studying,
Mhm.
working my projects, working with different teams and all of that. So it's been a very, very good experience for me.
Very good. So, Pablo, can you tell us something about yourself? Where are you from? Where did you study? And
Sure.
what do you do now?
Sure. So I am originally from Chile in South America.
Mhm.
I graduated as an industrial engineer from the Catholic University of Chile, and I worked 9 years prior to coming to the MBA
Mhm.
in the financial services industry in Chile. So that's my background.
Good. When did you start thinking about MBA?
The idea was there for me for a long time, really, since the very beginning when I first joined my first job in a bank.
Mhm.
Many of the managers in the bank had attended some of the top business schools here in the U.S. From the beginning of my professional experience, the idea of doing an MBA came naturally to me, like something interesting. I had the opportunity to talk with many of these managers about their experiences doing an MBA.
Mhm.
Everyone agreed that was a very good experience from a personal perspective, and also from the professional side, in the sense that they felt that they grew professionally a lot while doing their MBA. Uh, so the idea was for a long time, and I kind of started postponing it a little bit, maybe a little bit too much, too long.
It's
I
never too
wouldn't
late.
recommend anyone to wait 9 years. I think it's better if you go as early as you can. Um, but still, after 9 years, it's worth it a lot,
Definitely.
because there's always new things to learn. It's good to be exposed to to a very broad diversity of cultures and types of experience and all of that, which the you can find in the MBA. So at some point in my career, I decided to prepare and to take the steps to pursue an MBA, and it was a long process for me. Really, it took me like 2 years in total since the point when I started preparing
Mhm.
for my tests, after the point where I got my admission from Ross. It's a long process.
Mhm. Could you please tell us about your career goals?
So can you repeat that? Sorry. Could you repeat that last question?
Oh, I'm sorry. Could you please tell us about your career goals?
Yeah, sure. So my career goal when I applied to the MBA was making a switch from career in finance to consulting, management consulting. I wanted to be exposed to different types of companies, different types of industries, and go beyond the area of finance where I came from. And I thought consulting was the best choice for me to do that. So that's the reason why I decided to make this transition.
Right. Pablo, you applied only to Ross and you were accepted with full scholarship, 100% scholarship. So how is Ross the best school for you? How do you think you were the best fit for Ross?
Well, I like Ross a lot because of several reasons, really. Well, first, I have to say I did consider, top business schools when I was doing my research. I focused in the U.S. Since it's basically I was in the same continent. It's kind of the influence of the U.S. is very strong throughout all of Latin America. So it was my natural interest to come to the U.S. And when I started considering and evaluating my options, I realized that Ross had a very unique combination of features that I feel like you cannot easily find in other top business schools. And I think the thing that stood out the most to me was the focus on experiential learning that Ross has. That's I haven't seen anything like that in other schools.
Mm-hmm.
And although I believe that all of the top schools have very strong programs, I really liked the idea of Ross providing its students with opportunities to work in the field, to gain some hands-on experience, like the map project, which is something very unique that we have. But that is not the only one. There's a lot going on with regards to that. There's the university is starting to, with a new project with real businesses that they have been creating during the last year. And for the coming students, they will also have the opportunity to work in real businesses that are run by students. And that is another completely different type of experiential learning opportunity, which I think it's very unique and very helpful to gain management skills, to gain exposure again to different types of businesses, to working with people from different countries. All of that together is what you get from those kinds of experiences. So that's one thing that I really liked. And the other thing is that the school has a very interesting focus on a certain type of leadership, which they call positive leadership. That is not something that I mentioned when I made my essays and all of that. When I wrote my essays, but still, it's something that I knew. And now that I am here, I realized that it's something very, very important and also something very unique here. The school here, Ross, places a lot of emphasis in developing positive leadership skills in the students. So the idea of that is that you are not only able to manage teams, coordinate people, and all of that, but the idea is that you also become a leadership that can inspire other people. And I think that is something very, very powerful in many ways. And it's definitely something that I want to be myself, you know. And the emphasis that the university of the school places on developing the skills to become a leadership like that is something very interesting to me as well.
Definitely.
Mm.
So looking back, could you please share your application strategy, planning, and preparation for MBA?
Yeah, sure. So the first thing is preparing for the two tests that we have to take. One is the GMAT, the other is the TOEFL. I started with the TOEFL, which I think it's kind of the natural path because you develop more, the verbal component that you then can also use for the GMAT. I prepared like probably 5 months for the TOEFL, and then probably more like 6 to 8 months for the GMAT. In my personal case, I had to take a lot of time to prepare for that because, as a non-native English speaker, it required a lot of effort for me to get the necessary speed to work through all of those questions to get a good score. So it's really important that you have enough time for you to prepare to have good scores.
Absolutely.
Especially given the fact that business schools are increasingly paying more and more attention to the scores that you get, especially with the GMAT, which is the average GMAT score of every class. It's becoming higher and higher, and I don't know when this is going to end.
Right. So what would you advise international applicants? How much time they should keep for preparation of TOEFL and GMAT?
So if they are not native English speakers, I would advise that they take a lot of time to prepare for that. So, like I said, like at least the amount of time that I spent, I think that or probably more, I think it still pays off doing a lot of practice, especially with the GMAT. Trying to target the highest possible score that they can get. I would say I would say above 700 is not anymore. It's not anymore enough probably. So right now I would say like try to target at least like 720 and more for the top business schools.
Very true.
For international students, I know that for native speakers, they are even more demanding in that sense. So it's a different story. They need to get even higher scores. But for us, international students, I would say like 720 or more. It's a kind of goal that we should have. Although I would not discourage people with lower scores. I know that is not the only the single criteria that the schools use for evaluate people. There's a lot of different variables involved. So if someone has less than 720, even less than 700, I think it's still worth to considering applying. But before getting your scores, try to make your best effort to score as much as high as you can.
Exactly.
And at least 1 year for both tests, I think that's a good plan to have.
1 year for both TOEFL and GMAT.
Right.
Non-native applicants. Wonderful advice. Yes, it's a valuable advice.
Yeah.
What was the most challenging aspect of the application process? What challenges you faced? What was the biggest challenge you faced?
So personally, I think every component of the application is a challenge.
Yes.
You know, the tests are challenging. They may not be challenging because of, you know, especially given my more quantitative background. I didn't feel like a ton of challenge with the quantitative component, but still the verbal part was really hard for me, you know. So that's one challenge. You need to really prepare for that. But after that, I think there's two other relevant components of the application. One is networking with the people from the schools that you are interested in. I think you need to be really, aware that, you know, getting to know the schools where you want to apply is extremely important. And because of that, you need to have enough time to reach out to people, you know, people working in admissions, current students, alumni in your country, to really have a good sense of the school for each school that you're planning to apply to. That's very, very important and should be done well in advance of, you know, working on your essays. I think that's something really pays off, and that's definitely something I personally would have liked to assign more time during my planning and preparation. And then you really need to be very mindful to work on your essays for every application. And keep in mind that probably every school has different questions and different areas of focus. So you really need to take very seriously that part of the process. I think it's good. I think it's probably key, especially for international students, have a good advice for that as well, with someone, like you, who can really, help you make the most of your essays, your resume, and find ways to strengthen every sentence that you're putting there, to make your application as strong as you can. So that's the third component that I think it's challenging in the application process. So you need to take it really, really seriously, like every other professional work that you do in your current job. And I think that's the way you end up getting, offers and, or acceptance. You get accepted to the schools where you want to go.
Yeah, but you didn't have time. But you didn't have enough time for essays.
Sorry?
I said you didn't have enough time for working on essays.
Yeah. For in my case, I think I clearly didn't spend enough time for the essays. So it ended up being a very stressful process for me.
Yes.
Probably you as well. Because I just I had some previous work, but I decided to to get advice for the essays really close to the deadlines. And that is not something that I would recommend to anyone.
I know.
But still, you know, I was lucky to find, you know, someone to support me.
I enjoyed working
despite
with
that.
but it was challenging for us to meet the deadlines. But
Yeah. Yeah, I know it was very
I know.
it was very challenging. It's not something I would recommend to anyone, like I said before.
True.
I
agree.
But I guess that's, you know, that's the way you you know, you realize when, you know, when someone is really good, even though you don't give, you know, enough time or, you know, to get the advice. And that's why I'm really helpful, you know, for the advice that I got from you.
Thank you.
So thank you for that.
It was my pleasure. So now you're almost going to complete a year at Ross. So what is your favorite thing about Ross? What did you like best about Ross? I mean, there are so many things that you like.
Yeah. So this I would probably repeat some of the things with the previous questions, but you know, I've come to confirm that, you know, this idea of experiential learning is something really good. Right now, I'm working on my map project. It's been intense, I have to say. So you really need to be ready to work hard if you know, if you want to do a kind of project like that. But it's very good experience because it's a real consulting experience, which I think it's worth not only for people who want consulting, but for everyone, I would say, because you really get to work with, you know, with a very good team of students at Ross, and you also get to, for instance, present to the CEO of the company that you're working with, providing them recommendations for really improving their business. You know, in my case, it's a very, very big company in China. So it's been very hard for us to come up with, you know, with impactful recommendations because they are already doing very well.
Right.
So, you know, it's not easy to, you know, to come up with something really valuable for them. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, you know, a lot of research. It's a ton of work, but I would say that you learn a lot throughout the process. You learn to, you know, you develop professional skills that are not gonna be useful only for consulting, but for every type of work that you want to do after graduation. You know, given the exposure that you get to C-level executives in your client company, given the experience working with a very diverse team of students also, with different backgrounds, different, you know, cultures, all of that. So you also develop in the process a lot of your leadership skills, where you really need to engage with your team, try to motivate, try to be supportive, try to encourage collaboration. All of that together is something that you also learn throughout the process. So MAP is definitely an extremely valuable experience at Ross, and it's something I really liked. And besides that, I would say that I really like, you know, the the community that Ross has. I
Mhm.
don't know about the other schools, but here I feel like it's really a very good environment where I think the community of Ross emphasizes more collaboration and more like creating bonds with the people rather than competing against each other or competing for trying to be, you know, the best student in the class. So in that environment, the experience that you have when you attend classes and have discussions guided by the professors, I think it's something really, you know, that you get to enjoy because everyone tries to build from the other people's comments. You know, it's something. It's a very good experience that you have in the classroom, outside of the classroom, working with your teams. You know, even when you know, there's a lot of social activities as well.
Mhm.
So that kind of environment also, I would say, fosters a lot of, you know, of really creating bonds with the people, trying to, you know, to make some friends. Why not? I think something is I think that is something very valuable because you don't only want to get a good education
Right.
from your MBA. You also, you know, I personally would also like to come out from business school,
Mhm.
you know, with new friends and contacts, you know, ideally everywhere in the world.
Right.
And that is something you can do in the MBA because there's people coming from, you know, from around the globe, basically. So I've met a lot of, you know, very interesting people from China, from India, from the
Mhm.
US, Europe, other countries in Latin America, and they're all, you know, they are not only smart people, but they are also people that are friendly themselves. So it's really easy, you know, to have, you know, some relationship even beyond the the class itself.
So these relationships are going to be everlasting that you are
Right, right.
building at Ross. So are you involved in any clubs or student organizations? You said you have been participating
Yeah,
outside of class activities also.
right. Yeah, I've been very involved with one of the professional clubs that we have, which is the General Management Club. This is a club that works to help students connect with companies for leadership development programs. There's a huge offer of leadership development programs, especially here in the US. I would say most big companies offer that path to MBA students.
Mhm.
Uh, so we work to help them in many ways. For instance, we every year um, we ran a conference here at Ross where we invite people from many companies, and we create the environment for students to network with those companies in this conference and to learn a little bit more about those companies and to know people working there. And this is an alternative to all of the resources that the Career Development Office provides. So it really adds, you know, more opportunities for the students to learn more about the options they have in this specific career path of the development. And also this club helps these students with the, with this interest in general management roles get to know each other and create a network to support each other. And I think that's something that works really well for everybody. So the club works to foster that here at Ross. So I am involved as a vice president of finance right now with this club. So I manage the budget. I make sure that every activity in every area has the right resources and on time and all of that. So given my previous experience in finance is something that I enjoy doing.
Right.
And it's also a way to give back to your community. So
Definitely.
Something very fulfilling.
I understand.
Yeah.
Is there anything that you wish you had known before you started? Did you face any challenge? And,
yeah. So
any advice for the prospective applicants to Ross?
Yeah. So I mean, for the time that I have spent in the MBA, I think something that I would probably have liked to know before, and it's probably it probably relates to to my personality. I would advise everyone to try not to be overly focused on goals while you are in the MBA, and try to also prioritize a lot getting to know the people, your classmates, even your professors, all of the people that you get exposed to here. So when I started the MBA, for instance, the first experience that I had here was Impact Challenge. And I was very focused during those 3 days, which is a very intense type of experience. I was very focused on the results, on the goal, and I, and after that, I realized that I should also try to take advantage of that experience, which happens even before you formally start the MBA, to really get to know more my classmates and spend more time on that instead of focusing too much on the deliverables and the work that we did that we had to do and all of that. So my initial mindset was too much focus on the goals, on the objectives, deliverables, all of that, and I didn't spend enough time with the other side. So right now, I think it's very important to balance those two things. I'm not saying that you need to get rid, or not consider important, the work that you have to do. That is important, and you're evaluated based on that. But in the end, you also need to care a lot about the process and get to know the people and develop some, leadership skills throughout the process. Get to know your classmates. All of that is, I would say, as important as everything else. So really, I would encourage everyone to to have that kind of mindset. So when you have, for instance, a team meeting for any class, try to start the first 5 minutes or even 10 minutes just talking to the people in your team to know about them, and don't wait for being in a bar or somewhere else to get to know your classmates in a more personal way. Take advantage of every time, every opportunity that you have to do that as well.
I understand. So you're saying before you started your experience at Ross, you should have known, you feel you should have known about your classmates also before you started.
Yeah,
that's a very valuable advice. Not many people would think that way. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Is there anything else you feel the prospective applicants to Ross should know?
Well, maybe something that I didn't cover, but still it's something very important for the application process. It's trying to be very clear about career goals. That is probably advice that every expert advisor will give, but I think it's something that needs to be reminded for everyone. So it's very important I think it's very important to try to come to the MBA with a very clear career goal, because you have too many professional opportunities here, too many resources. So from day one, when you get to the MBA, you will need to prioritize your time and your efforts to network with some companies, to prepare your resumes and all of that for the application, for applying to the companies that you're interested in. And I think it pays off a lot if you get to the MBA with that very clear. So in my case, I had very clear that I wanted to do consulting and focus on that. And that helped me, I feel like that helped me manage my time in a very efficient way. And it's something that I really appreciate now that I am done with my recruiting process.
Okay.
And so that is something that I would also strongly suggest for the application process, and put that in the essays as well. Trying to be very specific on your career goals, because that pays off when you start your MBA.
Good advice. Pablo, you said you are done with the recruiting process?
Right.
So are you already hired by a company?
I mean, at this point, my recruiting process was for my internship. I got a internship offer from Bain & Company. So I'm gonna be spending 3 months with them over the summer.
Okay.
That is something.
So which company you said? Can you please repeat which company you said?
It's Bain & Company.
Oh, this was your goal. That's what you wanted. So you are hired by the company you wanted. I remember you wrote that in your essay.
I'm very excited to.
Congratulations.
And I can't wait for that. Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy about it.
I'm so happy for you.
Thank you.
All right, Pablo, it was really nice. It was a pleasure chatting with you. Thank you so much for sharing your Ross experience with us. I'm sure the prospective applicants to Ross will benefit a lot from your inputs, from your feedback.
Well, I hope so, and thanks to you as well for your time, and I'm so glad to talking to you again after all of these months.
Yeah, thank you for your time, and good luck with your second year. Good luck with your internship and your second year at Ross, and good luck with your post MBA career. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.